Hey guys, it's Bridget with San Diego Seed Company, and today we're going to talk about everything you need to know to grow potatoes. They're so easy and they're so fun, and if you're a brand new gardener, this is really the go-to crop for the first year because you really just can't mess it up. And when you dig potatoes out of the ground, I promise you'll giggle like a little kid. It is so much fun. Now, before I get into all those details, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out a video. All right, so potatoes, whatever you want to call them. These awesome little tubers that we love to eat that are delicious and super diverse are very easy to grow in the garden if you know a couple of key things. Now, I'm going to assume that you guys don't know anything about potatoes, and I'm going to start with all of the very basic information and then continue to dig in. Oh, is that a potato pun? And dig into all of the more in-depth details. Potatoes are tubers, meaning that they grow inside the soil, okay? And so you're going to grow them in a box, in a pot, in a grow bag, in something, because what you're actually eating is the roots or the tubers of the plant. Now, I've got some potatoes here. These are actually potatoes that we sell on our website. We have a Russian banana, we have Yukon Gem, and we have Purple Viking and Red Pontiac. These are all varieties that I've been growing in San Diego for a very long time. They do fabulous here, and you can grow them in zone 9 and 10 very easily. When do you plant potatoes? First question, right? It can be a little confusing because potatoes are planted at a different time than sweet potatoes, okay? Potatoes are actually planted in the fall or the winter and grow all the way into the spring and are harvested late spring, even early summer, okay? Sweet potatoes, on the other hand, are actually planted when the weather is a lot warmer. And an easy way to remember that is sweet potatoes are actually a tropical crop. So they're not gonna like the cold weather of right now. They're gonna wanna wait until the spring. Now, you can remember potatoes are planted in the fall or the winter because they're actually, where are they from? Ireland? Where's potatoes from? I know I should know that. Very cold places. You're gonna wanna plant them in the fall or the winter. Now, a common question that we've gotten over time when we're talking about potatoes is, why do you plant them in the fall versus just waiting till the spring? Well, as you've seen from my other videos, by planting in the fall, you're taking advantage of those little extra days of sunlight so that the plant can get extra big and you get a bigger harvest instead of waiting and planting till spring, only reaping the days, the sunlight and the days that you have in the spring and the summer. So when you order potatoes from us, they're gonna look something like this. It's gonna look like a potato that you buy from the store. Now, what is the difference between this seed potato and a potato that you buy from the store? Well, a seed potato is grown specifically to be replanted for as a seed, basically. And that means that it's not going to be treated with anything. It's not going to have been washed, which is very important. So there's still the natural protective layer on this potato versus what you get at the store. They haven't been scrubbed, and they definitely haven't been chosen for grade or size or anything like that. They're simply to be replanted in the ground. Every potato has eyes on it, which are these guys here. They kind of look like an eye. In fact, actually, if I had a permanent marker, I could make this really nice little cyclops guy. And those eyes are what are going to sprout. Once those sprout, that is what grows above the ground eventually and is the potato plant that you see, and this remains below the ground, okay? Now, when you get potatoes from us, they're just going to look just like this. They're not gonna have sprouts on them. And we actually had a customer email us and ask us why. Well, that's a very good question. If we were to wait until these sprouted and then ship them to you, those sprouts would easily break off in the shipment. So we got to get them to you like this, and then you've got to sprout them at home, which is an incredibly easy process. What I like to do is just take an egg carton. And the reason why I like egg cartons is you can kind of set your potatoes up. They're gonna hold the potatoes up. They're also gonna allow for good airflow, right? And they're going to keep them dry. Don't store them in plastic or anything that's gonna hold on to moisture that could potentially make them rot. And then you just put this in a window seal. So like at work in front of my computer, I have Potato, Spud, and Tater. They're like my 3 little office companions. And they're in the window and they're waiting to sprout. If you keep the potatoes at normal temperatures indoors, they're going to sprout over time. Naturally, it's just going to happen as they're exposed to sunlight. It's a very quick and easy process. So you could take these potatoes, Put them somewhere where you're gonna pay attention to them, maybe in a kitchen, maybe on your office desk, whatever, and let them sprout. Once they have sprouted, you can plant them. Now, a very popular question okay, that one doesn't want to be on there. A very popular question I get all the time is, can you plant them before they're sprouted? Absolutely, you can. But you're not really giving them a head start by doing that. They very well may sprout underground, but you're more likely to have them rot and not actually make it to root and come up above the soil. So what you want to do as a gardener is give them a head start. Get them going before you even put them in the ground. So once these are sprouted, let's pretend these are sprouted, right? Let's say this potato, or we'll do this guy as a good example. Let's say there's already little tiny sprouts coming out on here. The next question we get all the time is, do you plant this whole? You absolutely can. You can just plop this guy in the ground as it is now. Or what I prefer to do is actually to cut it up, because you're increasing your yield by separating out the potato. And the way in which you can do that is, let's imagine that these guys have actually sprouted. And then we got these eyes have actually produced little sprouts on them. Then you kind of look at it and you decide how you want to cut it so that you can divide up those sprouts. And actually, if you zoom in really closely, you can see this one's already starting. You can already see it's starting to come out of the potato. So this is a really good example. Here you can see as well. These are just the very, very beginning stages. But you want to cut it up so that you get the most amount of sprouts on each piece that you cut up. And it's not rocket science, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and don't overthink it. So I'm thinking I want to go this way. So I'm going to cut the potato this way. And look, I've got nice sprouts, or eyes on here rather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that looks really good. Now, what you want to do before planting them is let this scab over. If you were to plant this potato right into the ground after cutting it, unfortunately, it's most likely to rot, because you've given this an open wound. So bacteria, all kinds of things can get in there. Natural things that are in your soil will decompose this potato. It's not guaranteed, and that's why sometimes when you're digging around in your compost, you'll actually find a sprouted potato. But to prevent that from happening, you're gonna wanna let this scab over. Again, I like using egg cartons. I like to set it up so that the cut side is up. Put it in an area with good circulation, so even maybe in front of a small, very light fan, and this will scab over very quickly. Probably anywhere between 3 to 4 days. It will look brown, scabbed over, or really like a very light brown. And when you touch it, it's not gonna feel wet. It's going to feel like, a scab that you get on your body. It's gonna be covered and healed over. At that point, then you can plant them in the ground. So let's pretend that these are scabbed over, okay? So very important. You wouldn't plant them like this. They're totally scabbed over. How do you plant them? Well, this is one of the reasons why I love potatoes, is because they're so simple. Okay, you dig a hole. Doesn't have to be anything special. You're gonna wanna go down 6 to 8 inches. This is really amazing looking soil. And you're gonna plant them in the ground. It doesn't matter how you put them. For this particular one, because all of the eyes are on one side, I'm gonna plant it like that, because the sprouts are naturally gonna grow up, right? But you could do it sideways. They're going to find their way up out of the soil. That's their job. That's what they're meant to do, right? They're a very forgiving crop. It's really difficult to mess them up, I promise. Now, you're gonna plant them anywhere from 6 to 8 inches deep. It is important that whatever you plant them in, you have enough room to continue piling soil on top of the plant, because that's how you will get the most potatoes. As the roots or the sprouts continue to grow up out of the plant, you're going to want to continue to cover it up with soil. So what's really nice in this bed is I have this whole area here that I'm gonna continue to grab more soil, and this is what we call hilling. It's a very simple, easy process of just adding more soil to the plant. And the reason being is because the potato plant will put off more tubers and give you more potatoes the more that you cover it. You really only want the top, 6 to 8 inches of the plant showing. And so all summer, or I'm sorry, all spring, long, winter, you're gonna continue to hill up the plant. That's what that process is called. So it's important to note that you wanna hill over with soil. The reason being is, like, if I used all this mulch that's here, we pulled this back so we could plant carrots on the other side. If I were to try to continue to cover it with just these wood chips or mulch, light is going to get through, and you really want the tubers or the potatoes to be completely covered so that you get the maximum amount of growth possible. I'm sure you guys have all heard, like, the funny cultural legend about eating the green potato chip, in a bag, right? Well, the reason why you get green potatoes is because they've been exposed to sunlight, and that turns the pigment green, right? You really don't want green potatoes, so you want to continue to keep them covered with soil. That's the best thing that you can do to guarantee that you get lots and lots of tubers. Let's start from the beginning. So you plant this in the fall. After you order your potatoes, you put them in your egg carton, you let them sprout. Once they've sprouted, if you want to, you can cut them up into smaller pieces, making sure that you let them scab over prior to planting. Then you go out in the morning with your coffee and you plant them in your bed. You can do them in raised beds, you can do them in pots, you can do them, I've seen people do them in trash cans that have little holes in them for the water to come out. I mean, they really are not picky. They can grow in just about anything as long as they have room to grow. That's the most important, and it's a logical place that you can continue to add soil on top. So you let them grow fall, winter, spring. As the days get longer, what is going to happen to the potato plant is it's going to flower. The flowering process is responding to the hours of sunlight. It's going, oh, it's almost the longest day of the year. I need to send out my flowers, and then I can send out my seeds and continue my progeny through the universe, right? That's what potatoes are doing. At the point in which the plant flowers, it's time to start rooting around in the soil and start pulling out potatoes to find them to eat. Once they flower, they're really not going to put much more energy into making potatoes. The beauty of potatoes is they're a great storage crop where you can leave them right in the ground. So you can dig up only as many as you want to eat for that dinner or that day or that week, and you can continue to leave them in the ground. One concern is the longer you leave them in the ground, especially if you're in a very wet climate, they could potentially rot. So for zone 9 and 10, we're not a wet climate, we're actually a very dry climate. It's very easy to leave them in the soil. If you're in, let's say, Washington or other parts of the United States that gets a lot of water, you might want to save all your crop and dig it up all at once. But regardless, you can grab the plant by the top and basically grab it like by its ponytail and you can pull it out, or you can use a pitchfork to try to dig it up. If you have really light, beautiful soil like this, it's really easy to just dig down and pull out the potato with your hands. It's one of the funnest things. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade and I still giggle like a little girl every time I dig up a potato. Probably just as much as every time I see a seed sprout. It never gets old, it's so much fun, and you will be amazed at the yield that you get from potatoes. So let's go over a couple of little care tips. So what kind of fertility do potatoes need? Well, interestingly enough, potatoes don't need a whole lot of fertility. You want good, light, fluffy soil, add compost if you have it, and at the time of planting for the biggest crop, add an organic granular fertilizer, something like our darn good fertilizer. You can sprinkle it in. It's not going to burn the plant. It's going to feed the microbiology in the soil, and it's just going to basically kind of be like a vitamin boost for the potatoes to make sure they grow really big and beautiful and happy. If you are growing in an area outside of zone 9 and 10 and you get very cold, so maybe even zone 8, zone 7, during the coldest part of the winter, you might have to cover your potatoes with row cover. It's very simple, especially if you're in raised beds. You can just put the row cover over, put some bricks on all 4 sides so it doesn't blow away. That's gonna hold in moisture, it's gonna hold in temperature and keep it a lot warmer. You do wanna make sure that you're watering. We've got irrigation here. You can water potatoes by hand, but as I've mentioned in all of my videos, if you put it on irrigation, you're gonna have much better luck because it's getting regular, consistent watering. At the time of flowering, you can pull back your watering considerably because you know that you're getting ready to pull out those potatoes. It's almost harvest time. Now, once you harvest them, you can't eat them immediately. We usually don't wait long. We don't actually cure them or anything like that. They go straight into the kitchen, they get scrubbed, and they go almost instantly into the pot or into the oven because I cannot wait to eat them. They're absolutely delicious. If you want to keep them for a while, it is a good idea to cure them. Again, back to the egg carton. It's a matter of allowing the skins to harden up a little bit and keeping them out of moisture and keeping good airflow around them so that they can cure a little bit before storage. We've all made the mistake where we buy a bag of potatoes and we put it in the bottom part of the cupboard in that plastic bag and we leave it in there and then we forget. And then we come back 3 weeks later and we're like, what is that smell? And then we go and we find the rotten potatoes. They've rotted because they were kept in plastic, all squished together in the bottom of the pantry where they didn't have good airflow. And the moment that potatoes are sitting together with moisture, they're going to rot. So you want to keep them separated as much as possible. There are a few pests that can become an issue for potatoes. Flea beetles can be one of them. We actually just posted on our IG a story with a really good detail about how you can take care of flea beetles. There's lots of preventative tips you can do for them. I've been growing them for over a decade and they've never actually been wiped out. So it is something that you can completely manage. Okay, so before we go, we actually have a volunteer in the garden. Let's go check it out so you can actually see what the plant looks like. And so we got over here this adorable volunteer, this little potato guy. And what I want to show you is, see how tall they are? So in a real growing application, you would want to continue to add soil so that really only this top little part of the plant is growing. Because down below, if this is covered in soil, this will send out tubers. You'll actually get more plants. Now this is just a volunteer, so I can't guarantee that there's anything under here. Ah! Yeah, there is! Da, 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 da. Look at that. Little tiny potatoes. So this is a really good looking one. And we got babies here. Let me pull this up and see. Now again, remember, this is just a volunteer, but this is the thing that's amazing about potatoes. You don't even have to really try. You can just accidentally leave them in the ground and see what happens. Oh, I feel more down there. Oh my God, see, this never gets old. Look at that. It never ever gets old. So keep in mind when you harvest, if you pull the plant too rough, you might pull it up and actually have left some of these down there. So you really want to root around and feel and see, is there any more in the soil? And you'll be really surprised that sometimes, oh yeah, see, there's plenty more. You'll be very surprised that sometimes there's way more than you think. So you really want to go through and dig up and dig up. Now, I also want to show you, so these are potatoes, okay? These are Irish potatoes. These are sweet potatoes. Look at the difference in the foliage. Totally different. Now for a little bonus quiz, what does this look like? This looks like potato leafed tomatoes. That's why they call them that, is because they look like the leaves of a potato. You can use that in a quiz next time you guys go to a bar to do quiz night, and if you win, you owe me a beer. Okay, so this is sweet potatoes, very different looking, absolutely a totally different looking plant. And this is more of a tropical plant, and so you're gonna wanna plant this in spring and let it go through the summer, and you can almost harvest in the fall. So it needs to be grown during the warmest part of the year when the days are the longest. So please, give it a try, grow your own potatoes, you will not regret it, it's so much fun. And if you've got kids, one of the best garden projects you can do.